the Cajun capital of the world.
I'm the average Lafayette, Louisiana kid.
See, I'm back on my...
Hey, fellas. Hey, Raging Review said, congratulations. Say what's up, y'all. Yeah!
People that have courage don't have no extra gene. There's no difference in you. The difference is, are you going to sit down when it's time to stand up?
Ladies, gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Rage and Review podcast. As you notice, I am not Nick. I am Jerry. It's great to be back. It's been a while. And I just love the fact that after my hiatus, nobody expected me just to come in gradually. I get to host tonight. Of course, Nick is out. He's got some other obligations he has to tend to, so I'm going to go ahead and lead the charge tonight. But I've got helpers along the way. Also, co-host, Natty Daddy. We've got Cole Gilbo, KG. We've got Mike Beerb in the house. Fellas, I've missed y'all. How y'all been?
I guess I'll go first. We good, G. We good. Saints. I got all my Saints stuff on tonight, baby.
Let's go. Let's go.
Night.
By the way,
yeah.
We've got the pick coming up in a little bit. We'll keep you updated on that too. If you're not watching the draft, we will give you an update on who the Saints picked. They have the 8th pick overall. Right now, I think they're on pick number 5 with the New York Giants. So we will keep you updated. So yeah, I'm liking the black and gold, KG. Looking good.
That's what I was just going to say, man. We're waiting for that number 8 pick to be in. So I'm curious to see who the Saints have in the first round because, we got a good core, man. You know, the quarterback was the biggest need we had to fill. I think Tyler Shuck has shown that he can lead this team. And, you know, you bring in Travis from Jacksonville to carry the rock. Hopefully we can get the running game going and we just get some complementary pieces around him. We can go a lot of ways with this pick. I'm just curious to see who we go after.
No doubt. No doubt. Mike, how's it going, man? I feel like I see you more than everybody else because when I go up to my seats at the Teague, you and Brittany are literally in the first rows. So it's good to see you again. I know I always see you in person as we're walking up the steps, but how you doing, man?
Doing good. Yeah, we don't miss a game. So every time you come to the game, I definitely see you because I'm up in the front at every game. So I get to see everybody.
Well, I'll tell you, man, this time of year, KG, you know, sitting in Section A, you know, once May hits, you might be coming up to us because trying to get in that shade because it gets hot, man. It gets hot quick. It's so funny because in February, I'm usually coming down to sit with y'all to try to get some warmth. And then come May, it's the opposite, trying to get out of that sun, you know?
Yes, sir. No, Blair said that the last weekend or the last home weekend, I should say, Blair went hang out with Mike and Brittany for the game behind home plate in the grandstand. And the thing about the grandstand to Section A, the Section A actually gets, while you're in the sun the whole game, you get a lot of the wind. The wind still blows in Section A. And the grandstand, that ain't the case. You get a lot of the sun and you don't get much wind. So Blair was like, man, after the game, she was like, it's freaking hot back there, Cat. I'm like, oh, I know.
It's so funny because, you know, at certain points of the day, usually whenever you've got that overhang in the grandstand, that shade starts to shift. And it's funny because whatever row you're sitting on, you can kind of move up with the shade. And it's a good 15 degree difference, 15, 20 degree difference, especially in the summertime. So yeah, no, you definitely don't get as much of a breeze when it's hot. But man, when you get in that shade, it feels a lot better. Anyway, guys, before we start talking about baseball, let's thank our sponsors real quick, and always appreciate them paying the bills for us.
We'd like to thank the following partners who make Rage and Review possible. Our title sponsor, the Best Stop Family Market, with locations in Katy and Baytown, Texas, Toledo Bend, Karen Crow, and of course the official location opened in 1986 in Scott. Visit the Best Stop and ask about the Rage and Review tailgate platters. Gulf Coast Bank, title sponsor of the Tailgate Show every Saturday, 3 hours before kickoff. Planet Radio 106.7, Lafayette Roofing, The Yard Goat, Yes Please Branding and Marketing, Old Time Grocery, Stride Safety Solutions, Eat Lafayette brought to you by Lafayette Travel, Ragin' Hydration, and Dr. Brett Venable at Recovery Chiromed. And we'd also like to thank our Patreon sponsors listed here. For only $2 a month, you too could have early access to uncut interviews before they air here on our shows. You also get an exclusive Patreon icon next to your name on Cajun Threads, the official message form for Rage and Review. If you are interested in joining as a Patreon, visit us at patreon.com/rageandreview. Thanks to all of our corporate and Patreon sponsors for making this show possible.
And thanks again to our sponsors. As always, you guys, I mean, perception is key, right? When you have big company names like that, it always means the world that you want to associate with us. So thank you once again to all of our sponsors. So guys, let's get down to business. Cajuns had a week off, coming off their series win against the Golden Eagles. They traveled to Troy, and Coach Degg said it on Monday. It was either they could have swept us or we could have swept them. But I don't know about you guys. We talked about it on the post game. I called in on the post game. I felt like this should have been more of a sweep for the Cajuns. Friday night, the plan was go from Cody Brash to Sawyer Pruitt out of the pen. Kind of a questionable decision on that. I really didn't understand what the logic was behind it, but I was okay. I've told you, KG, I was okay with it because it was Cody. We've seen Cody have starts. We've seen him do a pretty good job starting on the mound. And having Sawyer come out in the pen, I was like, I don't understand it. I don't get the rationale behind it, but I'm cool with it. And we're cruising on Friday night, and we're up, 6-2. And then while I go to dinner with my wife, because we had our anniversary dinner, by the way, shout out to my wife, 10-year anniversary. That goes for you too, Mike. For those who don't know, Mike and I got married 10 years ago, one day apart. So great minds think alike, man. So congratulations to you and Brittany as well, buddy.
Thanks, you too.
But anyway, like I was saying, I'm at dinner and I look at my phone, check my phone in the middle of dinner, and somebody mentions Ty Roman's name. And I'm like, what the heck, man? Why is Ty pitching? Oh, thanks, RC. I love you too, man. And so I'm like, what's going on? I thought it was Cody than Sawyer, and Ty goes in, pitches a third of an inning, and gives up 3 runs. So I don't understand it. I thought that game was it kind of set the tone for the weekend, in that it was an opportunity that was lost on us. And then Saturday we fought back and won, and then Sunday was just a typical Sunday game. I thought our bullpen just couldn't hold it. But I was more upset about the Friday game. Mike, I just, you're a stat guy. Can you help me on this and any rationale as to why we went with our Sunday starter as a reliever on Friday night? Help me out here. Please educate me.
I'm about as confused as you are on that. I think we were all texting each other and we're like, why is our Sunday guy coming in next? Then our Friday night comes and closes. Everything about that game, I was confused, didn't know Brash was throwing. It completely just threw me off. Tons of questions. The tensions kind of went back down. I was Sunday is pretty upsetting that you drop Friday, you drop Sunday when the game was ours, right? It was ours to lose, and we did lose it, and we gave up multiple big runs and big innings. Couldn't control the damage. Very questionable decisions, but also a lot of guys didn't produce. Just that was such a crucial series for us. It was like a turning point, especially after taking Southern Miss. If we would have taken this, we would have probably been in a way better position from RPI and conference point. But now we put ourselves kind of in a pickle, and we really got to start winning. But as far as it goes to Friday, man, I was confused as much as everybody was, and didn't get it, didn't understand it, didn't get it the rest of the weekend.
And KG, honestly, man, what was the most disappointing this weekend, besides the fact that I thought we could have swept, was we hit the baseball, man. I mean, I'm looking at my stat line right here. I mean, Rigo, 7 hits on the weekend. Josh Lim, 5 hits. Colt Brown, the slump he's been through, 7 hits on the weekend. Even Blaze Rodriguez, 5 hits. 3 of those 4 guys are freshmen and got 5 or more hits on the weekend. That has to be very encouraging. I know Coach Daggs was very encouraged about it on Monday. He talked about it. He didn't seem too upset that we lost the series because of what the Bats did in Troy this weekend.
Yeah, so offensively, we did a fine job. I mean, like we talked about on the post-game show, and Mike, you were there. We were on that post-game show for over 2 hours, giving our thoughts. We got really heated at times, and shout out to Dave Schultz, who came and joined us a little bit later in the show. Always good to hear from him and get his insight. But no, offensively, this was the offensive weekend we've been praying for all season long. Mike, like I told you guys on the show, ever since UC San Diego, that was probably the best weekend of offensive performance that we saw, other than that weekend. So, the offense definitely carried the weight. They hit the ball out the yard. They went gap to gap. You had the upperclassmen and the underclassmen hitting the ball, in key situations. For the most part, we got runs in when we needed to. It felt like we executed offensively. Very few times did we not. So, yeah, if you would have told me, on the show, we had double-digit hits in all 3 games. And I want to say, I don't have the paper in front of me, the total amount of runs scored for the weekend. I want to say, it was 24, 25, something like that.
25, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, if you would have told me that, I would have said, yeah, we sweep Troy, because the pitching wasn't the problem going into that Troy series. It has been the offense, and you get the offense that you need, and then the pitching becomes the problem. But let's go back to it real quick. I know, like I said, we talked about it in the post game. I'm not going to harp about it a lot, but the point stands is when you bring your most reliable reliever, a guy who's been named on the Stopper of the Year watch list, whenever you make that guy your Friday night starter and you burn him for the rest of the weekend, that does put a massive strain on your bullpen. So, hindsight's 20/20, but the bullpen falling apart this weekend, in part, unfortunately, is because Cody Brash was the first guy that threw Friday night. You had this entire staff set up to where for the most part of the year, you had Sawyer on Friday, Herman on Saturday, and then either Tillett or Roman on Sunday. Cody Brash was a plug and play, and what I mean by that is, let's say there's a close game on Saturday, boom, Cody Brash comes in. There's a close game on Sunday, boom, Cody Brash comes in. Well, when you use him on Friday night, you're not able to plug him in those situations to stop the bleeding and shut the door. So if Cody Brash is going to be our Friday guy going forward, that's fine. But the bullpen's got to figure it out now, because we no longer have that steady hand in the back end that you can just plug into any game and win you that ball game. Key point, midweek game against Houston, right? Cody Brash, and if you think way back, what was that, a month and a half ago? But if you think back, the game was starting to get out of hand, bases loaded. In comes Cody Brash, strikes out 2 and shuts the door. We end up winning that midweek game. That's an example that I'm giving you, because now that he's a Friday night starter, you're not going to be able to plug and play him like that. So the bullpen's definitely got to step up. Roles have to kind of be adjusted. We thought, like I said, we would maybe see a Parker Smith, who, by the way, I know we're going to get to the Grambling game. Parker Smith's stuff against Grambling was filthy. I don't care about the opponent. There could have been nobody in the batter's box for all I care. Parker Smith's stuff Friday night, and you can go back and watch the archives on ESPN, was filthy. Awesome job out the bullpen, as I can say for most of the guys that came out the pen. But going back to it, Parker Smith, Hayden Pearson, those have been your steady hands out of the bullpen. Going back to Ty Roman being the first out the pen last Friday night is a head scratcher, only because that's a guy that's been starting for the last month and a half. He has not come out the pen. He's not been comfortable coming out the pen. And then he was the first one out of the pen. Where was Parker Smith? Where was Hayden Pearson? The guys that are used to coming first out the pen in those roles. So, there's a lot of question marks about Friday night. Saturday, you got Herman on the mound who did his thing. He was able to get you a nice quality start away from home, which is something that he's historically struggled with. We know what we get from him at the Teague, but on the road's a little bit of a different story. He was able to get off to a good enough start. The offense got out to that 7-2 lead, and then we were able to hang on for that Saturday win. We almost gave that one away as well, if we're really being honest with ourselves. And then Sunday, Jerry, I know you said Friday kind of disappointed you the most. It was actually Sunday for me. And it's because you had that 9-3 lead late, and it was the clinch game. It was a game to take 2 of 3. If we would have got out of Troy, Alabama with taking 2 out of 3, I don't think anybody really would have said much. We would have been happy with it. You keep riding the momentum from Southern Miss, right? So, but losing that game, especially with that 9-3 lead late, just leaving Sawyer out to dry. And there's no better way to say it. We left him out to dry. You could have went get him much earlier. He was walking people, giving up hits in the gap. But again, they left him out there. He gave up 7. I want to say they took the lead and we scored, in a 2-run home run, but then later on we give up a walk-off grand slam. So again, the bullpen just not being a cohesive unit right now. So, but yeah, that's my full breakdown of the Troy weekend. I kind of had my say on the post-game show. I was red in the face and about to have an aneurysm over it. I've calmed down since then. But we have a very tall task against Arkansas State, the best pitching staff in the Sun Belt. Hopefully our offense can keep the momentum going.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Sunday. Look, I was disappointed in Sunday, but the thing about Sunday is that, you kind of expect to hit the baseball. Sunday you're going to get a lot of runs. Well, I think I called in the post game, and again, great job to you guys on the post game on Sunday. One of the disappointing highlights of Sunday wasn't the fact that we pitched Sawyer, it's the fact that I thought that we kept him in too long. It was 9-3. He goes in, and he gives up a 3-run RBI double, which happens. I mean, you can't expect Sawyer to go out and dominate every single appearance. You're going to have appearances like that. But when you're on Sunday and you're just switching pitches left and right and you're putting in guys to basically hold the line, where were the 2 other guys in the bullpen ready to go when it was 9-6? Why would you keep Sawyer in for, what was it, 3 batters after that? Right?
So, yeah. Well, let's say it right. Let's stop right here and say it, Jerry. Why? So there's a couple of things you can ask. One, why was your Friday night starter in a Sunday game when he's the 3rd or 4th arm out of the pen with a 6-run lead, especially when he just threw Friday night and shut out Troy, to hold the line? I know we lost that game, but he had a damn good outing Friday night. So why did they feel the need to give him another bullpen day on Sunday with a 6-run lead? I don't understand that, right? But that's not the point. When he gave up that 3 RBI double, like you mentioned, and it got to be, what was it, Mike, 9-6?
9-6. It was 9-6.
It was very obvious to everybody who was watching. That's when you go get him. That's when you go get him. He had kind of scuffled through that outing to begin with. He gives up that, and they cut the lead. That's the time to go get the reliever and go to a different arm, right? But instead, they stick with him. We give up the lead, and it is what it is. But that was my main question: is why is my Friday guy on the mound on a Sunday when he already had an outing for the weekend? It still baffles me to now. So I'm going to let it go because I've done talked enough about it, like I said, on the post-game show on Sunday.
Yeah, and like I said, we kind of let it get away from us, guys. And that's the frustrating thing, because this is one of those type of situations where we're going to look back, and yes, as you can see, it looks like the Saints select Arizona State wide receiver Jordan Tyson. Okay. All right. That's an interesting one.
I figured they would get Olave some kind of side piece along to go with Vele. I think that's going to be Vele is a very underrated wide receiver to me. I think Vele is a diamond in the rough. Whenever we traded from him from Denver, I told a lot of guys, I said, this guy's going to be good, but you got to give him a little time to get, acclimated to the system. I think we're going to be really solid at wide receiver next year. And, but yeah, good pick. That he's raw. He's hopefully he can fit Kellen Moore's offensive scheme nicely. With Travis in the backfield, if we could become a run first offense, any of these wide receivers can have a field day, because opening up, when you run the ball well, that opens up so many lanes in the passing game. So I think that's what the Saints are trying to do here with this pick.
Well, I think let's be honest, we needed help in the receiving core. I mean, the last couple of years we've been between the injuries and the constant revolving door of these free agent receivers, and we have guys that can't stay healthy, and it's just been inconsistent. I think the beauty of bringing in someone like a Kellen Moore as head coach is you bring some perspective to the passing game with Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck has a rocket arm. I mean, what he did with sort of a depleted passing game last year was unbelievable. And if you can get him some help on the wideout position, like you said, Vele, Olave, to name a few. That's going to be huge. So no, I'm excited about it. I like it. I mean, I kind of go back. I think that's the first time we've drafted a receiver since 2000. Well, Chris Olave was one. And then I want to say Robert Meacham was the last time we had a first round draft pick at wide receiver, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, and then we got Brandon Cooks. So yeah, I mean, look, I mean, if he's anything like Robert Meacham, I'll take him, you know? So nah, good pick for the Saints. Very happy about that. Need some more offensive weapons, and I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, guys, back to UL baseball. You know, Mike, the hardest part about the weekend series loss, I just don't want this to come back to bite us in the behind come May, right? When we're either trying to vie for a good seeding in the Sun Belt tournament, or trying to position ourselves to not have to play an extra game. It's games like Friday or Sunday that always come back to haunt us. And I know people say, well, it's baseball and it's one or two games and we can't harp on this game. Well, I'm thinking ahead here, right? I'm thinking ahead. And at this time of the year, while the team's still trying to find some consistency, you just can't let a game like Friday or Sunday get away, right?
Yeah, because one we already struggle on winning on Fridays, so having the lead on Friday, that was probably the frustrating part, is having the lead on Friday when it was our game to win, and we already struggle winning on Fridays. So that's why I'm like, we need to win as many games as we can right now, because I really don't think the chances of us winning the tournament are high, if we're being honest. So we're gonna have to go really deep in the season and really deep in the tournament to keep that RPI up. If we can't beat Friday night guys right now, we're going to have trouble hitting pitchers if we make a regional. We're going to have trouble hitting really premium arms in the tournament. So I think right now I'm not going to say panic, but it kind of is, because we can't afford to drop any more games. We have to win as many games as we can from here on out to keep our RPI just relevant. And I would rather try to just win as many games right now to try to get the auto bid, because I just don't think the chances of us winning the tournament, if we're being honest, is very slim that we probably win this tournament. So every game is crucial from here on out for me. It's a must-win game every single game for me. It was a must-win game Tuesday night against Grambling, which we did, and it was a very good win. We needed that. That was a motivational win. That was a momentum builder. It was probably good for the morale in the locker room. A lot of good things happened in that game. So hopefully we build on that and go play a good Arkansas State team that kind of mirror us a little bit to an extent. But from here, man, we really need to take two this weekend.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about Grambling, Mike. You know, Cajuns came back from Troy on Tuesday night to take on the Grambling Tigers. And look, Grambling was 14-24. You know, they're playing in the SWAC, which is not the best baseball conference, but you know, some of those SWAC schools sneak up on you, man. I mean, you guys remember 2014 against Jackson State. I mean, look, let's be honest. Southern went to Alex Box a few years ago and beat TSAB, you know. So these are one of those type of games where I looked at it going in and said, okay, focus on the fundamentals and just try to build a big enough lead to where you can play your bench. And they did that. Now, we got off to a little bit of a slow start. Landon Victorian got his first start of the year. You know, stat line's not that great. He pitched 2/3 of an inning, gave up a hit, gave up 3 runs, 3 earned runs, 1 strikeout, 2 hit by pitches, and he walked 3 guys. Look, it's disappointing, but at the same time, he hasn't pitched in 2 years. You're going to have games like that. I was more happy at the fact that he got to play. Now, obviously, it's going to take some time for him to build this back up. It's going to take some time for him to get back into a groove. But after going down 3-0 in the first inning to Grambling, I liked how we responded in the second, third, and fourth inning with 2 runs. We had a third inning where we had 4 runs. We had a fourth inning where we had 3 runs. And then we followed that up with 4 runs in the fifth. I felt like the bats continued where they started at Troy, KG. Just to give you some key stats here. Lee Amadei had a hit, 3 RBIs. Steven Spalita had 2 hits, 3 RBIs. Maddox Mandino off the bench, 2 hits, an RBI. Noah Lewis had a hit. Colt Brown had a hit. Rigo, Blaze, Drew Markle, who had a home run. Mark Collins, 2 hits. I mean, we had 13 hits, but we had hits from guys that A, we're going to need, but B, there were a few that kept the momentum going after the Troy weekend.
Well, let's just call it what it is, right? It was a get right game. It's a game where, you know, you hope by the end of the game you're able to empty your bench and let everybody play. And what I mean by that, look, I have it in front of me. We had 15 players on our roster that took a swing, that had an at bat, and then you had, 7 pitchers that threw, you know, Tuesday night. So, yeah, I mean, it was a get right game. You know, like you mentioned, Jerry, you know, Grambling is 14-24. They're not lighting the world on fire. I think they actually are still top 3 in the SWAC, I believe. But yeah, it's not a baseball conference. But bottom line is, you know, they did what they were supposed to do. Landon Victorian, you wish that he would have got out to a better start. He wasn't able to go a full inning. But yeah, it was his first time throwing in a couple of years, and I'm sure he was just happy to be back on the mound in live action. So hopefully, the more he gets comfortable, we might see more and more from him. But what I took away from that also, we're not even mentioning, look, Murphy Brooks gets the win. Murphy Brooks first time throwing in a couple of years, right? So outside, and this is not to throw shade on the kid, but outside of Will Taylor and, you know, Cam Riley, which was also his first appearance of the year, outside of Will Taylor, everybody else pretty much did a decent job on the mound. And then the most promising thing is seeing JR come in, throws 3 innings, only gives up a hit, has 3 strikeouts, had a pretty dang good outing. And that's something that JR has been needing for a while now. So hopefully he can build on that. But yeah, I mean, I don't really think there's much of a deep dive that we need for Grambling. I agree with you. I think we took the offensive momentum from Troy and kind of carried it over in this game with another double-digit hit outing. So that's 4 in a row now. But yeah, I'm just glad to see, you know, we had 6 extra base hits, 2 home runs, 2 triples, and 2 doubles. Really good. And look, shout out to, I know you talked about Mandino a second ago. He's at the top of my list right here, and I'm laughing because he was able to come off the bench and then right away drills one off the wall in right field. So that's the kind of thing that you need from a guy like that. Somebody that might not start every game, but he does pinch hit quite often. To see him come off the bench, not warm, not fresh, and then just slam one off the wall, that's promising. So, no, I'm proud of all the guys. Lee Amade gets another home run. Good for him because he's been doing great things at the plate and on the field. And then Drew Marco, you know, a fan favorite Drew Marco, who my son absolutely loves, getting another home run as well. So, no, shout out to the guys. Great win, you know, but let's carry that over to Arkansas State, to Jonesboro. We got a tall task with that pitching staff. They are really, really good. So offense has to keep that train rolling.
Yeah, one thing I can appreciate, Mike, is the fact that we did have quite a few pitchers that went in who we haven't seen in a while. You know, Cole Flanagan, look, he pitched 2 innings, but he gave up 3 hits, no earned runs, walked a guy, 1 strikeout. I'm not going to lie, I hate to say this, but when the bases were loaded and he was in, I'm like, dude, just break the streak. And y'all know what I mean by that, break the streak. And then Murphy Brooks, who actually got credited for the win the other night. First appearance in almost 2 years. He pitched an inning and a third, and he had a pretty decent outing coming back, but it was good to see some guys who we haven't seen in a while step up, including J.R. Tillett, where he was able to close it out the last 3 innings, gave up 1 hit, no runs. This is a kind of game where I like to see a lot of pitchers just to get some time on the mound.
And so I think we ragged eggs on the last episode, but I will give them credit for this game. I thought the management of this pitching staff for the Grambling was really good. He put the right guys in at the right time, pulled them at the right time. Going back to Victorian Landon, I mean, he could have done whatever. It's a rehab assignment in my eyes. It's basically just getting your feet wet on the mound. He had a little release. His release point wasn't there. He was spiking things. His curveball is really nasty. He showed pitches that were really promising. He's got potential. You can tell he was recruited by Oklahoma. You can tell he was highly recruited out of Barb. He's going to be a key piece. I'm looking for next year. I would love to utilize him this year in the right time, but to have him next year would be really good. I thought Cole Flanagan, the first inning was a little rough, but he got better the next inning. I thought this game was the perfect opportunity for him to get back on his feet. Murphy Brooks looked really good in my eyes. He had control. and command of the mound. He wasn't missing 4 out the zone. He was really tight. He was electric. He looked locked in. Loved him. Parker Smith, like Cole said, the dude was just lights out. He was piecing it up in the corners of the strike zone, getting them to swing and miss. 0 hits in 1 2/3 innings. Cam Riley, another guy, good to get his feet wet. Again, few pitches where you like, okay, he has some stuff, but also he just hasn't had enough reps to do much. So that's another perfect game for him to get some reps. Will Taylor, I'm not going to say anything bad because he just hasn't had the reps yet, but he shows potential. I think that's a guy, after the summer, he's going to go get more reps. Next year, we'll look to see him. JR got better every single inning. The first inning got touched up, 1 hit. I think he faced 11 batters, 1 hit. But the second inning came out in the third inning, especially the last inning he pitched, he was electric. Like, that is the JR Tillett that we know. He really needed that game. I'm hoping that was a confidence builder. The offense, I have right here a welcome back party because it felt like our offense exploded. It was fun to see live. That makes our 4th game in a row that we've had double-digit hits. I feel like our hitting, if we could just keep that going, our hitting is getting hot at the right time. Spalita with the triple, Mandino with the triple, Lee with the home run. Drew's phenomenal defensive catch by the dugout was amazing catch. He had a day. Mark Collins, 2 for 4. Everybody that got in the field had 1 or 2 hits on the day. That was really, really good to see as a fan in the stands that we finally get to see the offense that we've been looking for. So, like I said, this was a really good game for us offensively and for the pitchers. I thought the pitchers did really well.
Yeah, and even though, like, perception, right? Oh, a midweek game versus Grambling. A J.R. Tillett needed that type of appearance. After sort of the ups and downs that he's been going through all season long, he needed that in those final 3 innings to shut him down because now, he's I would think he's built confidence after that appearance. And then you have someone like Will Taylor, right, who goes in. And look, Will, we've been trying to ask where he's been all season long. And it hasn't been his best, but just making the appearance, even though he gave up a few runs, I still think in a game like this, still making that appearance goes a long way. Again, Murphy Brooks getting credit for the win. The big thing about Murphy Brooks to me is not necessarily his control, because I feel like he's got the control. I thought his velo was a lot higher than where he left off 2 years ago. A lot of his, he kind of looked like an off-speed pitcher in 24, and we find out later it's because he was hurt. I noticed he was pitching his fastball was in the upper 80s, that's progress compared to where he was in 24. So, if you can have that type of control with that type of velo where you're hitting close to 90, that can work. That can work for the bullpen that we have, So, look, we needed that win on Tuesday. I think it's just what the doctor ordered, just in time. And look, next week we got 2 midweek games at home, followed by another midweek the following week. So we're about to have a good amount of baseball in the next 2 weeks. That's very important. And this was a good game to really kind of kick it off. So what are we kicking it off to? Well, we're kicking it off to Arkansas State this weekend, starting tomorrow. The Cajuns will travel to Jonesboro, Arkansas, to take on the Red Wolves of Arkansas State. Arkansas State right now, 25-15 on the year, 9-9 in conference play. Coach Mike Silva is in his 2nd year there, and let me tell you, he's turned that program around within a year and a half, 2 years. It's unbelievable what he's been able to do in his appearance there, since he's arrived there. I'm gonna just tell you, when they came to the Teague last year and embarrassed us those first 2 games, I knew they had something cooking up in Jonesboro, and I'm just hoping that we can kind of pace ourselves in what we're about to see this weekend. Friday, first pitch tomorrow will be at 6 o'clock. First pitch on Saturday at 6 o'clock. Sunday, 1 o'clock first pitch. And Cole, KG, you've got the preview of the Red Wolves. Talk to us. What can we see this weekend in Jonesboro?
Let's go ahead and we'll start off with their offense. I do want to say that I know you mentioned they're 25-15 overall, and they are tied for 6th in the Sun Belt. I love giving this stat because they'll be the home team. Of course, they're 15-5 at home. So a very good team at their home ballpark. They're currently sitting 37th in the RPI. So it's going to be another strong RPI weekend opportunity for the Cajuns that we hopefully take advantage of. And the Red Wolf strength of schedule to this point is 56th. Last week, they won 2 of 3 at ULM. And if you guys remember ULM, the same ULM that came into our house and took 2 of 3 from us. So Red Wolves they're doing some good things right now. Like I said, 25-15. I would love to be 25-15 right now. But I'm going to start off with their Sunbelt ranks on their offense, and then I'll get to like their players and breakdowns and comparisons. This offense is, like you said earlier on in the show, Jerry, they mirror us in a lot of ways. They're not necessarily lighting the world on fire in terms of average and like hits, but you'll see when they do hit the ball, it goes out the ballpark. And here's what I mean by that. Sunbelt ranks for the Red Wolves, they are 11th in average, hitting 270. They're 5th in the conference in runs with 283. They're 9th in the conference in hits with 366, but they're 2nd in the conference behind Texas State in home runs with 62. 2nd in the conference also in slugging with a 476, and they're 5th when it comes to fielding percentage with 976. So, yeah, they don't hit for average and they don't hit the ball. They don't normally put it in play, but when they do, it goes over the wall. So what they're able to do offensively is actually they can take advantage of the Cajuns pitching is what I'm getting at. And we know the amount of home runs that the Cajuns have given up on the mound this year. So not something that you want to see. But let's talk about their offense. They're going to be led by first baseman Derek Martinez. He also does a little bit of catching for the Red Wolves at times. He leads the team with a 333 average. He also leads the team in home runs with 12, slugging a 705, and he also leads an on-base percentage as well with a 432. In center field, you'll see Ashton Quiller. Dang good ball player, 321 at the plate with 37 hits, which leads the team. 52 hits, which leads the team, 37 runs scored, and he also leads the team in stolen bases with 15. At third base, you'll see Cason Campbell. He also plays a little bit of first base at times as well. He's hitting 310 and leads the team in doubles with 12. In right field, you'll see Evan Griffiths, who's hitting 275. He's actually tied with Cason Campbell in doubles with 12 as well. At second base, you'll see Lane Walton hitting 269. He leads the team in triples with 3 and RBIs with 42. At shortstop, you'll see Patrick Ingsgolf, who's hitting 259. And behind the plate, you'll see Caden Edmondson, and he's hitting 211. They have a couple of DHs. They've been running around 3 DHs or so. I'll give you all 3. AJ Musto is the leading hitter of the non-qualified group. He's hitting 435 on the season. You might see Cougar Cook, who played, I think, in every game last weekend. He's hitting 250. And then lastly, they've been using Aiden Houseworth at DH as well, who's hitting 200 on the year. Lastly, a name that Cajun fans should recognize because it's unique and also because it feels like he's been playing for the Red Wolves for about 50 years now. In left field will be Cross Jumper, who is hitting 243 on the year. Let me give you these comparative offensive stats, and then we'll go around the horn and we'll talk about this offense. The Red Wolves are hitting 270 as a team. For comparison, the Cajuns are hitting 257. Runs scored on the year. The Red Wolves have scored 283 runs. The Cajuns have scored 226. Hits on the season, Red Wolves 366, Cajuns 334. Doubles on the year, they are deadlocked at 78. Both teams have 78 doubles even. Home runs on the season, as I mentioned, the second leading offense in terms of home runs. The Red Wolves have 62. The Cajuns, you can flip-flop that, have 26. RBIs on the season, Red Wolves 255. Cajuns are sitting at 202. Slugging percentage, they're slugging 476, which I mentioned is second in the conference. The Cajuns are sitting at 389. Walks this season, both teams have drawn exactly 165 walks to this point. Strikeouts, the Red Wolves have struck out 344 times. The Cajuns have struck out 307 times. We can take advantage right there. The Red Wolves do strike out a notch higher than the Cajuns do. On-base percentage, Red Wolves 374. Cajuns are sitting at 367. And lastly, stolen bases, the Red Wolves have 44. Your Cajuns have 67. So that's a little bit of a look of the Arkansas State Red Wolf offense. Like I mentioned, what scares me the most about them is their home run numbers at home, because that's where we're going to Jonesboro. And, you pair that with the home runs that we've given up this year, and it doesn't feel good. It kind of gives you those Texas State vibes where you thought you had them in some categories, and then come to find out they just overpowered you and made every game non-competitive. I hope it doesn't get to that point this weekend, but let's be honest. The Cajuns have not really shined away from the Teague this year, and it's a very tall task. Arkansas State is a very good ball club with Mike Silva at the helm.
Yeah. So Derek Martinez, he's your leading batting 333. That's probably your home run guy. He has a 28% strikeout rate. So that's pretty equivalent to like Donnie LaSalle, right? As far as like the strikeout rate. He has double the home runs as Donnie. So I'm just trying to compare it to one of our guys, right? He has a hotter bat. They have two guys, double-digit home runs. Like Cole said, it's going to be so crucial that we keep the ball in the park. I think if we keep the ball in the park, we have a shot. Their offense, like you said, if you look at their conference team batting average versus overall, it's a big drop. Their conference, they're batting 237 in conference. Overall, they're batting 270. So it's a big drop as far as what they're doing overall versus what they're doing in conference. Their stats in conference-wise is pretty equivalent. I say equivalent. It's pretty close to ours. We're pretty last in every offensive stat in the Sun Belt, but they're not far from us. They just have 10 times more home runs than we do. So it's going to be obviously very crucial that we keep the ball in the park. They got three guys that are mid to low 20% strikeout rate. Everybody below that's in the team. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of strikeouts. Hopefully we do, but it looks like from the stats they've been doing from here on out, they pretty put the ball in play. Got great slugging. Their Friday night guy, Jack Nelson, has a 9.2% walk rate, and he has a 26% strikeout rate. So he's not going to walk a lot of guys, and he's going to strike out guys. So he's obviously their Friday night guy. The Dylan Farley guy on Saturday, he has 11% walk rate and a 13.6% strikeout rate. So he's not going to strike out a lot, and he's going to also give up some walks. So if we could take advantage of that on Saturday. But looking offensively, like Cole said, they're 11th batting average, second in home runs. So batting average is here, their home runs is up here. So that's pretty much going to come down to. It's going to come down to pitching on the mound, and we just cannot give up those home runs.
Yeah, that's a very unique situation that we're facing, because I think the ball carries. It's very similar to what we saw in San Marcos, right? Like you said, Cole, it's why you get the Texas State vibe, because they do have power to their swing. But if you look at their scores in the last couple weeks, not many high scoring games. Against ULM over the weekend at another hitter's park in Monroe, I mean, if you look at some of these scores, they look like they didn't really, they took 2 out of 3, but they didn't really hit the baseball as much if you look at the scores. Now, again, it goes back to, like you said, Mike, we have to keep the ball low. We cannot allow them to turn on our pitches. And, it makes me wonder, how patient are they at the plate, right? Because if they know we're coming in to not pitch or hang the ball up there or put it in play to where they can turn on it, how disciplined are they at the plate? Are they going to swing? That's the big question. For me, where I'm sort of not concerned about, but curious would be how does our momentum with our bats match the way they hit at their ballpark? That's going to be the interesting dynamic to me. We've been hitting the ball well for the last 2 weeks. No, our pitching hasn't been doing well. But do we have the bats right now to get into a shootout with this team? Yeah. I say probably not. But because we're starting to hit the baseball, it makes us more unpredictable, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably the perfect word for it, is unpredictable, because I do have hope, because the last 4 games we have double-digit hits against a very good Troy team. So we were able to put up double-digit hits against a very good Troy team, and we did against Grambling, which we should do that. So it's giving me hope going into Arkansas State that our hitting is probably, is it the best it's ever been right now? Maybe, to an extent, kind of. We are hitting the long ball. We had some in Troy. We had some against Grambling. Double-digit hits. We got guys that went off Tuesday. So no, the last 4 games is giving me hope offensively coming into this game. And I know our pitching is going to bounce back, because our pitching is what carried us all year. So it's giving me hope that I do think we will play way better baseball, because I think it matters. It really matters to me. And just what we've seen these last few games, we know we're going to get a better Parker Smith. We know we're going to get a better Hayden Pearson. We're going to get a better Sawyer, hopefully put in the right spot. These pitchers are put in the right position. That's going to be key, and I think we might have learned our lesson. So I think we might see a different pitching staff, or the correct pitching staff. And so I do have confidence going into Arkansas State, but it is a really good Arkansas State. That's probably the best Arkansas State I've seen in a long time. So we have seen Herm good on the road against Troy. Hopefully we can carry that over to a good Herm on the road at Arkansas State, which I think we will. But to me, it always starts with Friday. It has to be Friday. We have to start hitting elite pitchers. We have to start hitting Friday night pitchers. Everybody's got Friday guys. Everybody's got really good Friday guys. I think it really starts with Friday. If we win Friday, I'm going to have confidence knowing that all we got to do is just steal one the rest of the weekend.
We did that on Friday in Troy. You know, their pitcher came in with what, 350 maybe? If that, as a low, there's like a 3 ERA, and we hit them. You know,
Yep.
We got 6 runs off of them. And so, I mean, we're hitting the baseball. I mean, that was the first time I've seen us all season basically tee off on a good Friday night guy. I thought Troy's Friday night guy was pretty good, but we hit him. And so I think you're right. I mean, I know you're right. We need to hit Friday pitching, but I just hope that we, like you said, we learned our lesson from last week, KG. I hope we learned our lesson and just stick with what works on the mound. Sandy, just about every decision he has made up until this point, even in spite of the lack of hitting and some of our losses, have been pretty good decisions. Let's not finagle with it this weekend. Let's not lose a game because we made a poor choice or decision. And instead, if we lose the series, let it be because Arkansas State was the better team and beat us. We can't afford to give games away this time of year with boneheaded decisions, especially when it comes to our pitching staff.
Well, I'm going to say it again. I think the offense is going to be the reason that we win or lose this series, because I'm going to say this. If we're going to do anything this season, it's going to have to be because the offense has woken up. So I'm glad. I love what they did last weekend against Troy, and I really appreciate what they did Tuesday night against Grambling. But I need to see it again, right? I need to see a couple weeks worth of it before I get on the train that this offense has kind of turned the page and we're truly progressing as an offense. Like I mentioned, I mean, they're first and basically, well, we didn't get to their pitching staff yet, but I will in a second. They lead the Sun Belt in every category, every major pitching category other than strikeouts. So this pitching staff is going to be the hardest pitching staff we will face all year long. But here's the good news. If you're able to find a way to get it done against, the Red Wolves in Jonesboro, it doesn't get much harder than this staff. You're not going to see anything better than this staff probably for the rest of the season. So, I hope they can carry the momentum offensively. We're certainly going to need it. We have seen, unfortunately, our pitching staff regress over the last month or so. We went from, I want to say, in the high 3s of a team ERA, and now we're in the low 5s. So that shows you that trend. That shows you that downward trend of team ERA. And, some of it has to do with maybe some regression on the mound as far as individual players. Some of it has to do with moving pieces around as a coaching staff and plugging people in different positions. Like, for instance, Cody Brash on a Friday night instead of the back end. Sawyer Pruitt on the back end instead of the Friday night. Like, there's a lot of chess pieces being moved around and shuffled around, and people have to basically reinvent the role that they've had the first half of the season. But here's what I'm going to say, boys, and I'm just going to get to the bigger picture of everything. We can't lose another series. We got four weekend series left, including the one that's coming up. And you're kind of in a position now where you cannot drop in another series, because if you do, well, that automatically, well, not automatically, but that all but shuts you out of any at-large bid. And I'm just saying that openly. I personally don't believe we have an at-large to begin with, unless we would sweep the rest of the season. But if you lose this weekend, you are all but out of an at-large. And Mike, you mentioned it very early in the show. Does this team have enough steam behind them if they make the tournament to win the tournament? I mean, we have a month left of baseball to find that out, right? So, but I'll even kind of zoom in even closer. We're on the outside looking in right now as far as making the tournament. And I know, everybody's saying, why are you talking about this? Why are you talking about this? Because if you look at our remaining schedule, there's no gimmies left. Like, all of these weekend series are tough series. There's no layups like, hey, I'm going to throw my hat on the ball field and sweep right here and gain 3 games. We don't have any of those. So if you don't show up to the ballpark and you lose a series or you get swept, if you get swept, man, we're in deep crap. So it all starts in Jonesboro. You got to focus on it. Like I said in the postgame show, Jerry, I challenge these boys from here on out to treat every weekend series like a super regional. You got to win 2 of 3 and treat it like the season is on the line, because everything that you're wanting to play for is still in front of you, but you got to get really serious about the goals that you have left. Because if you continue to drop games and drop series like we saw last weekend in Troy, they're going to evaporate really, really quickly. So, but anyway, that's kind of my challenge to the Cajuns. I know we still have to talk a little bit more in detail about this Arkansas State pitching staff. I'll throw it to you one more time, Jerry, and I guess we'll get to talking about the Red Wolves and what they can do on the mound.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I kind of jumped the gun on the graphic I wanted to show on the Sun Belt standings. But yeah, look, we know they can hit the baseball, but I'm not going to lie, guys. I was very surprised to see their team ERA. It's like, what, 3, like just over a 3, I believe.
They are quietly one of the best pitching staffs, not only in the Sun Belt. I mean, they are the best pitching staff in the Sun Belt, but they are quietly one of the best pitching staffs in the country. I want to say they're top 15 in the country in terms of ERA. I'll just jump into it, Jerry. This is the Sun Belt ranks for the Red Wolves. Listen to this. They are first in the Sun Belt in ERA with a 3.85 ERA. They are first in the Sun Belt in team saves with 15. First in the Sun Belt with hits allowed, only giving up 318. First in the Sun Belt in earned runs, obviously, with 151. They also lead in ERA. That's to be expected. But they're first in the Sun Belt in walks, only giving up 123, which is very low. First in the Sun Belt in batting average against at a 241. And as I mentioned, the only major stat they do not lead in is strikeouts, where they're 12th with 326. So here's what I'm expecting to see from the Cajuns, with this pitching staff. They don't strike out a lot of people, and that's a good thing, because the Cajuns, as of recently, have done a very good job of not striking out as well. Our strikeout numbers are actually pretty dang low when it comes to the Sun Belt, conference. So I expect us to have our opportunities, be able to put the ball in play. But don't think that by putting the ball in play, Arkansas State's going to give anything to you. As I mentioned earlier in the show, they're 5th in the conference in fielding percentage. It's a really respectable defense. So they're going to make you earn everything. But what I'm saying is you'll have an opportunity to put the ball in play. Mike, you said it a while ago. Can we feed off of the momentum we had at Troy, where we were driving balls in the gap and putting balls over the wall? Because if you can do that, you give your pitching staff a little bit of room to work with. But let's go ahead and talk about their pitching staff. Mike, I know you talked about some of their starters. I'm going to piggyback off of that. I always use, as reference for all you, Rage and Review fans, I always use the weekend before as a guide. And last weekend, this is what the Arkansas State Red Wolves ran out there. They used Andrew Allen on Friday night, who has a 4.44 ERA and a 1-3 record with 11 appearances and 3 starts. On Saturday, they used Jack Nelson, who has a 4.47 ERA, a 1.16 whip. He's 2-2 on the season, 10 appearances with 10 starts, but he does lead the team in innings pitched with 48 1/3. On Sunday, they used Dylan Farley, who leads the team in most pitching categories. He leads an ERA with a 2.56. He does not lead in whip, but his whip is a 1.29, which is respectable, but he does lead the team in wins with a 6-1 record, 10 appearances, 10 games started. Let's talk about a couple of guys out the pen. I'm expecting to see Ryan Ashford, one of the first guys out the pen. He has a 3.81 ERA, a 1.15 whip. He is 3-0 on the season with 23 appearances out of the pen. Secondly, you might see Tyler Weimer. He has a 2.68 ERA, a 0.99 whip, a 3-1 record, and has 16 appearances out of the pen. And one of the last arms you'll see, or I should say one of the top 3 arms you'll see out of the pen, is Brett Foss. He has a 3.14 ERA, leads the team in whip with a 0.84. Talk about good. He has a 2-2 record and 15 appearances out of the pen. And lastly, their closer, Cooper Garrison, who has been named, just like Cody Brash, on the midseason, Stopper of the Year award watch list. He has a 3.67 ERA, a 1.07 whip. He is 2-1 on the season, 19 appearances, and leads the team in saves with 7. And I also believe those 7 saves leads the Sun Belt Conference as well. Let's go ahead and I'll throw you guys some comparison stats as compared to the Cajuns, and then we'll go around the horn and talk a little bit more about the pitching staff. The Red Wolves come into this one, as I mentioned, with a 3.85 ERA. The Cajuns are sitting at 5.25, a significant jump from what we were talking about a month ago, guys. This pitching staff has kind of regressed over the last month or so. Team whip for the Red Wolves, 1.25. Cajuns are sitting at 1.37. Saves to this point, Red Wolves have 15 saves. The Cajuns have 10. Hits allowed, they've given up 318 hits. The Cajuns have given up 334. Earned runs allowed to this point, Red Wolves 151. Cajuns have allowed 210. Walks allowed, Red Wolves 123, which is a league low. And then the Cajuns are sitting at 159 right behind them. Strikeouts to this point, this is where the Cajuns have the big advantage. Red Wolves, 326 strikeouts as a staff. The Cajuns have 373. Doubles to this point, they've given up 50 doubles in the year. The Cajuns have given up just a tick higher than that. They've given up 56. Home runs allowed, they've given up 37 home runs as a team. Not great, but, Cajuns, of course, have given up a Sun Belt leading 63. Batting average against, which is a big number I pay attention to. They lead the league in batting average against with a 241. Cajuns just below that, though, in second place with a 246. And lastly, hit by pitches, which is something I started paying attention to. They have hit 46 batters, and the Cajuns have hit 68 to this point. So that's a look at the Red Wolves. Like I said, they lead all major Sun Belt categories in pitching outside of strikeouts. And just for comparison, I like to give this one as well. I have the pitching comparison as far as Sun Belt ranks for us. Cajuns are sitting at 5th in ERA in the Sun Belt, 4th in saves, 3rd in hits allowed, 5th in earned runs, 4th in walks, 3rd in strikeouts, 14th, obviously, in home runs allowed, and 2nd in batting average against. So top 5 in most major categories. Obviously, we're 14th in home runs allowed, which might lead the country or very close to it. But let's talk about the Red Wolves pitching staff. That is going to be a very tall tree to climb this weekend, boys.
Yeah, no, thanks for the stats, KG. Look, again, I keep going back to it. This is why I'm happy that we're starting to hit the baseball. Now, I will say, as far as comparisons go to our pitching staff, we've regressed a little bit. I do think the outliers of the Texas State trip, and then you have a Sunday game like you did against Troy, that does kind of mess up our numbers a little bit. I thought for the most part, if you really look at our conference weekend series, even against ULM, I thought we did okay pitching. We just couldn't hit the baseball. But yeah, to your point, I'm kind of wondering, like, without the Texas State trip, which was a complete disaster from our pitching staff, and the Sunday game against Troy, where we would compare. But it's kind of hard to like take those numbers out. But it goes to show you that when our pitching staff is on, like we saw against Southern Miss in those final 2 games, that we could go toe-to-toe with an Arkansas State pitching staff. And quite frankly, I think without a trip to San Marcos and that disaster, I think our pitching stats are even better. I think it could be complementary to Arkansas State. Their ERA as a whole, like you said, is 4.19, which I think it's not bad, you know. But yeah, I mean, look, they are. I mean, again, if you look at some of the scores in conference, they're not giving up many runs, and that is a compliment to their pitching. But look, again, after what I saw on Friday against Troy, Mike, and hitting their Friday guy, I mean, who's to say we can't do it again this week with the bats, man?
Yeah, it's going to come down. We're going to have to hit our way through Arkansas State. Their pitchers, all but 4, have a sub-5 ERA. So you can't say, hey, we need to hurry up and get to the bullpen, because their bullpen is just as good as their starters. Their middle relievers and their closers have a 3 and 4 ERAs. From top to bottom, we're going to see really good pitching. They're not going to let off on us the whole entire series. It doesn't matter who they throw. They all have really good ERAs with a lot of innings under their belts. We're going to have to come prepared and hit our way through this weekend. Their pitchers gave up 37 home runs, and opponents are batting 241. So opponents are not batting really well against this pitching staff. It's going to come down to hitting, and we're going to have to really show up against this staff. And I was looking at the Arkansas State website earlier. While I'm talking, maybe one of y'all could check, but I think one of their website, they already put up their game 1 throw, their guy. I'm pretty sure it might be Jack Nelson on Friday. They had him listed on game 1 on their website. Not sure, can't confirm that. But if so, again, if they do throw Jack Nelson, let's say they do, not sure, has a 9% walk rate. This guy's not going to walk anybody. We're going to have to
pitching him, by the way. They are throwing Jack Nelson, yeah.
We're going to have to hit our way. He has a 20% strikeout rate with a 9% walk rate. This guy is going to attack the zone. We're going to have to hit the ball. We're going to have to get some bumps. We're going to have to get some home runs. We're going to have to slug. If they do throw to Dylan Cat on Saturday, I think the website might show that as well. I'm not sure. Can't confirm. If they do, he has 11% walk rate with a 13% strikeout rate. A little higher on strikeout rate. A little lower on strikeout rate and a little higher on the walk rate. So we're just going to be real disciplined. We're going to have to hit the ball. The swing and misses, the fake bunts, we're going to have to stop that. We're just going to have to be dudes and be men and really hit the ball and show up and hit our way through this weekend.
And one other thing I want to say, Mike, and you'll agree with this, they don't walk people. Very low walk numbers. So yeah, you got to get in the box ready to swing the bat. They're not going to strike you out. They're 12th in the conference in strikeouts. They're on the bottom end of the conference in strikeouts, and they don't walk people. They don't allow walks. So you know what that tells me? They keep the ball in the zone, and there is an opportunity to put the ball in play. So yeah, last week against Troy, you lost 2 of 3, but you had your best offensive output of the year. And that's great because you're going to need that output this weekend. Like you mentioned, Mike, it does not get easier going to their bullpen. It doesn't. Flip side, when we played Troy, we talked about you had to get their starters out of the game and get to the bullpen because you thought you could do good things to get the bullpen. It doesn't matter with Arkansas State. Their bullpen guys, they have 7 guys in their bullpen that have over 10 appearances and over, double-digit innings pitched. So these are experienced guys, and as you mentioned, there's only 4 on the entire roster that have an ERA higher than 5. These guys pound the zone. They're taught to pound the zone. So, the Cajuns have a tall task. I said it before we even started this breakdown. Offense will be the key. As funny as that is to say because of how bad the bullpen collapsed last week, I just think the offense is going to have to do it again because I said this over and over and over this year. When we go out on the road in these smaller ballparks, we're going to have to either hit with teams or out-hit teams to win these games, and it's no different this weekend. Unfortunately for us, it's going to be a gigantic task with the pitching staff that Arkansas State has, one of the best, not only in the conference, but the entire country. I just hope that we can do enough and come through with 2 outs and come through with runners in scoring position and move people over and basically execute when we need to bunt, because I'm sure the Cajuns are going to use small ball to move people over this weekend. You guys said it. Arkansas State is not giving up a lot of runs in conference. They're not. But this is the kind of staff that is okay with being in a one-run ball game because they have the horses in the stable to win those kind of games. So we have to get very comfortable very quickly at playing the same type of game. I would be very surprised if we get into any kind of double-digit shootouts. I expect most of these games to be, 4, 5, 6, run games. I'm talking about 4-3, 5-4, that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, I mean, the opportunity's there. Again, because Arkansas State, once again, folks, has a 38 RPI. If you're able to go over there and play well and take 2 of 3, you can put yourself right back in the conversation with as ugly as the weekend was last weekend. This is a new opportunity. Wash away what that was, get to the ballpark ready to go, and just have a good outing, and let's see where it takes us.
Yeah, and look, we have 4 weekends of baseball left, and this is the time where, and that's why, not to be too critical, but when Coach Diggs was very encouraged by last weekend, there's no more, it almost felt like a moral victory because we hit the baseball. But right now, we don't have room for moral victories. We don't have room to say, I'm encouraged, and then lose a series. Like, this is a time where when you hit the baseball, you got to win the game. When you're up 6-2, or you're up 9-3 on a Sunday, you have to find ways to close it out. You cannot let a game slip away. When you go to your original rotation or your pitching rotation on Friday, and you were up and you're up big and you have momentum on the bats, you stick with the plan. You stick with the rotation that you originally intended for. You don't make crazy switches at the last minute and then come out having it bite you in the butt and lose. We do not have room for that anymore starting tomorrow. We don't. And on top of that, again, the matchup, it's a very unique matchup for us because you're playing against a team that's very similar, like you guys have been saying. They get the timely hits, they've got some power, but also they can pitch just like we can. So I'm looking at a match of who can outpitch the other team and who can get the timely hit. That's what it's going to come down to, is getting the timely hit. Coach Robe used to say, good pitching, good defense, get the timely hit. We're going to need that this weekend in Jonesboro if we want a shot to win this series.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, real quick. I think it's going to be – I think we might see some pitching duels. I think the pitching – I think our pitching backs comes back, man. I think what we saw in Troy is not who we are. But to put in perspective, I have some key notes. Like, Arkansas State split a midweek series against a ranked Arkansas, a really good ranked Arkansas team. They took down Southern Miss in the series. They lost to Troy in the series. They lost to Coastal in the series. So they've won at really high levels, and then they've also dropped some against Troy and Coastal. They have ODU left, Texas State left, and South Al left, right? South Al and ODU being a little weaker. Texas State, that's a really good matchup they'll have. So, and like Cole said, they're at 38 RPI. Like, that is going to be crucial for us to take advantage of a really good Arkansas State team. I think we're going to have to play 3 well-rounded games on the mound, fielding, and on the offense.
So somebody in the comments right here asked, Justin Johnson asked if our rotation has been announced. I don't think it formally has. I haven't checked Twitter or anything like that in a couple hours. But if the interview, that Kevin Foote did earlier in the week is any indication, I think they're going to go back to Cody Brash on Friday night. At least that's what I read. At least that's what I read in that article. But like I mentioned earlier, I like Cody on the back end, as many people do, because, if you throw Cody on a Friday night, he's done for the weekend, and now you kind of have to piece the rest of it together. I would rather have Cody available to plug him into a game that needs to be closed out, right? Like, let's say, and I'm just going to throw a name out there. Sawyer's been the Friday guy for most of the year. Let's say Sawyer gets you out to a 6-5 lead on a Friday night in the 8th inning. That's the kind of time you would plug, Cody Brash in there to close the door, win the game, and get out of there with a Friday night win. Or it could be Saturday with Herman. You could say any starter you want. That's the point that I'm saying. Like, I like being able to plug Cody wherever I need him to basically put my stamp on the game and win you a ball game. I'm at the point now, and listen, earlier in the season, we were talking about, man, do we move Andrew Herman to Friday? But if we're going to start shuffling people around, why not just put Herman on Friday? Herman leads the team in ERA, whip, wins, all of it. So, I mean, if you're dying to have your best arm on Friday night, we could say this: Cody Brash has the most elite stuff on the team. 97 with a wipeout slider. But that's what I need to see from a closer, right? Like, I need a guy that can give me longevity on the mound. Andrew Herman's that guy. Now, as much as I love Herman on Saturday, because he's what I call the guy that if you lose a Friday night game and you get him on Saturday, he's either going to get you right back into the series or he's going to clinch it for you. So I love Herman on Saturdays. But if all this shuffling around is happening, then the shuffle needs to happen where we just move Herman to Friday and figure the rest out Saturday and Sunday. If you're all about putting your best arm on the mound Friday night, well, then Andrew Herman's your best arm. I'm sorry. He's your most veteran arm. He's your best arm statistically. He's got 3 complete games on the season, which might still lead the country. It did at the time. I mean, what more can you want? The guy gives you innings, longevity. He's the prototypical guy that you want right there. And then it saves everybody else on the back end that kind of fall in their roles as needed. So just something to think about, man. Like I said, if y'all find the rotation, let me know. But I just think Cody Brash, I'm never going to be mad with Cody Brash being on the mound, whether it's as a starter or on the back end. His stuff is just so good that you have the confidence in him to get the ball and go. I just prefer him on the back end because his stuff is closer stuff. I'm just going to say that, boys. I want him to give me 100% effort, for 3 outs. I don't want him to kind of have to conserve himself for, 4 or 5 innings. That's all I'm getting at.
And I agree with you. I mean, you nailed it right there. I don't mind Cody Brash starting because he's electric, and I know he can get us 5 innings at throwing 97. But I also like seeing him multiple times a weekend finishing out games, right? He's hard to hit. So if you throw him Friday, Herm Saturday, you got to throw Sawyer Sunday. Don't make the same mistake you did against Troy because it didn't work out. So I'm hoping if they do throw Brash Friday, be real smart with what we do with Sawyer Pruitt. And also Parker Smith and Hayden Pearson and all these guys, Garrett Carter, because and Pappenbrock, if he gives you a good inning, let him keep going. So I'm curious to see how they're going to handle that pitching staff if they start out with Cody Brash on Friday. Not like you said. You said it perfect. I'm not mad, and I won't question it. But I also like to see Cody Brash finishing off games on Friday night, and then come again maybe Saturday or Sunday night and finishing off games for 1 to 3 innings.
Well, the only issue, and look, I understand because that's what Cody's done all year long. What bothers me about that is not the idea bothers me, but what bothers me is we're on game 41 starting tomorrow out of 56 games, and we still are talking like we need Cody to save us because the rest of the bullpen can't pull through. That's concerning to me. And look, it's the truth. I mean, it's the truth, right? I mean, we love Cody because he bails us out. Let's just call it what it is. He bails us out. And not to say that's an indictment on the rest of the pitching staff. I don't think that our bullpen is that bad to where we need Cody to bail us out. But if we're talking about this in game 41, that's a problem for me. Because what that tells me is that we don't have the bullpen to pull through for us. And I'm all about Cody coming in on a Saturday or Sunday or Friday and Sunday in the last 4 and closing it out for us. But that also tells me it's time for other guys, and I'm not going to say their names, but it's time for some of the guys in the bullpen to step up and be able to go 3 or 4 innings if they have to. Because right now, I don't see it. I don't see it.
Well, that's kind of why I thought last weekend was a slap in the face to those younger guys that were putting in the work, like a Parker Smith or like a Hayden Pearson, and even Garrett Carter to an extent the last 2 to 3 weeks. Those are the guys that have been the first arms out of the pen and that, for the most part, done a damn good job. And then, the whole staff gets shuffled around where you got Brash as the Friday guy. And then what did we see first out the pen last Friday? Well, it was Ty Roman, who's a starter.
Your Sunday guy. Yeah.
Right. So why are you going to a starting pitcher to be your first arm out the pen instead of the guys that have been the first arms out the pen for the last month? Like, that's not fair to these young guys that have solidified their role on this team and they've got momentum going. And then you just totally abandon the rotation. Like, it was baffling. I think it was a complete mismanage, and I hope we learned from it. I mean, that's all I can say is I hope we learn from it, because as much as we imploded last weekend, there's very few games as a Cajuns fan. And I'm talking about, I mean, I've been having season tickets since 2013, boys. Even back since then, 15 years or so. It's been very few and far between that I've seen us implode on the mound like we did last weekend. It almost in all three games. You know, we were able to, hang on Saturday, but nearly in all three games, we almost gave up 5-run leads in all of them. So, but yeah, like I said, I just hope it was a learning experience and that we kind of insert these pieces correctly and, go get them when we need to correctly, because we let them drown far too long last weekend. And it just sucks that we're still sitting here a week later talking about last weekend, but it's the way that we lost that just gives us that bad taste, right? So it's a new opportunity this weekend against the Red Wolves. And but bottom line for me is that I really hate that we're still having this conversation 2/3 of the way through the season. This is not really the time to be shuffling around your entire pitching staff, and that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like roles are going to have to be reinvented with a month left to play on the season schedule, when this is the kind of stuff that should be figured out before conference even starts. So very discouraging, but bottom line, a great opportunity in front of us if we could take advantage of it this weekend.
And I want to say something real quick. If Sawyer Pruitt earned every right to be the Friday night guy, and when you pull a guy off the Friday night role, that is probably frustrating as a player, because as a player, the Friday night guy, you're the face of the franchise, right? You're the QB. You are their guy. And when you take him out that role, it probably frustrates him a little bit. And it also, I'm not going to say it messes him up, but you could, mentally, it could throw him off a little bit. Obviously you changes their process, their throwing process throughout the week. But I just want to say that if we do put Sawyer in a different role this weekend, I hope he's electric. I hope he seals the deal. But that has to be frustrating, because he earned every role to be the Friday night guy. And if you pull him, I know for me, if I was a player and if I was a Friday night guy, I'd be frustrated. But also, you got to go out there and perform. So I just hope it's tough, man. It's tough. I don't know what to say. It's tough.
No, and Mike, I think that's a very valid point. He earned that Friday spot, and he pitched his tail off on those Friday nights that he showed up to play. I mean, most of those games that were losses were not because he couldn't pitch, but because we couldn't hit the baseball. We got into a conversation this week with some of our friends about whether or not how Sawyer should handle this. And I'm going to just tell you, yes, you're right. It's frustrating when you're pulled or yanked from your Friday spot. And I've heard Coach Degg say a few times, well, wherever we put him, we expect him to play that way. But I'm torn on that, because last week you take him out. Last week you move Cody to Friday night. And like I've always said, if there's anybody to come in and take a starting role during a weekend series, I'm okay with Cody doing it because it's Cody. But if the plan was to go from Cody then to Sawyer, and then at the very last minute you make a decision to put in your Sunday starter over Sawyer, and then because of that decision it costs you the game, and then Sawyer has to go in after that and basically for two and a third of an inning shuts out the team that you were originally scheduled to relief against. I mean, look, at the end of the day, he's still a freshman. It's a 19-year-old player. I don't know about you guys, but I'd be frustrated if I was already got my Friday night spots taken away. Then I'm expected to go out in the pen, the first guy out, and then you put somebody else ahead of me. Then I got to go clean up your decision by giving up no hits and no runs. Well, I can understand if he's frustrated. This idea, well, he's supposed to do what we ask him. Well, to me, that was a poor decision to put in Ty. And I love Ty. He redeemed himself on Sunday. But, at the end of the day, it's still somebody who, to me, if you tell him, hey, you're going to go in after Cody, you go in and you put him in after Cody. You don't make a last minute decision and then it backfires and then he comes in and bails you out of it. And then what, you expect him to come off the mound smiling and happy about it? Well, thanks for putting me in, guys. No, I mean, there is a two-way street to that. So the idea that, well, he has to be tough and he's got to play where we tell him, okay, I get that. You know, you coach and player. I respect that. But also put him in a position to help you win as well. And I felt like Friday night we didn't do that with Sawyer.
And real quick, and this is not a shot at Cody, right? I'm not saying Cody is not a Friday night guy. Cody is legit. He's one of our best arms. He's a Friday, Saturday. He's a closer. He's a starter. He's really good. He's going to get drafted. He's going to play at that next level. So I'm not saying like I'm talking about Sawyer being Friday, but I'm also not saying that Cody doesn't deserve a Friday, because Cody Brash is one of the best arms that we have right now. He's versatile. He could finish games. He can come in. He gets things done when you need him. He can start for you on a Friday. He can close for you on a Friday. So it definitely wasn't anything about Cody. I think it was just the fact that pulling a guy that's been majority of your Fridays is frustrating. You move someone else in. You shifting things around that once pitchers were starting to get settled in. And now we're getting closer towards the end. You're getting closer to the tournament. Now these guys are probably going into each game like, hey, am I starting? Am I pitching tomorrow? Am I pitching today? Like, they probably don't know what they're getting into from here on out.
This is my take on, and by all means, I was not a former pitcher, but this is what I think and how I think logically about how this should have unfolded. I would have shifted going back to Herman being a Friday guy. I would have shifted the starters around before I would have decided to just plug your best reliever on Friday night and just throw the rest of it. And, you know, that's kind of what it feels like. And what I mean by that is if you had a problem with Sawyer Pruitt and how he was throwing on Friday nights, which granted, a lot of the games that he didn't win on those Friday nights really weren't his fault. That was back when the offense wasn't producing, or, you know, a guy came in after him and gave up the lead, you know? So now granted, his last true start on Friday night against Southern Miss was a bad one. It was his worst start, you know, in his young career. But what I'm saying is if you don't like him as a starter on Friday, move him to Saturday or Sunday and just move the starters around. Don't just plug in a reliever and then you got to figure the rest out on the back end. Like, here's how I kind of would have put it. If you want to move starters around, put Herman on Friday, put Sawyer on Saturday, flip-flop him if you want to try to get off to a better start on Friday nights. And guess what? If in those Friday and Saturday games you don't need Cody Brash, if you want Cody Brash to start, make Sunday TBD, and Cody Brash, if he has not thrown, could have thrown on Sunday as a starter. So there's different ways you could have went about it. But no, you plug Cody Brash into Friday night, and then you burn their whole back into your bullpen because nobody is used to closing games like that. They were so used to being the bridge between the starter and Cody, but now you're having to throw a guy out there to come in and close or come in and shut out, you know, finish out a game. The guy that was doing that was Cody Brash. Nobody else has experience with that. So you can't get really mad at these young guys for not being able to answer the bell, because nobody has ever answered that bell this year. Cody Brash did that. So that's what I'm saying, man. There were so many ways to handle the bullpen last weekend, and it was just a complete botch job. I really hope we learn from it. I've done said that so many times tonight. But I'm kind of ready to get off of this topic because until the starting rotation comes out officially, we're just going to keep playing the what-if game. But that's how I would have handled it. I would have if you were going to move anything around, I would have started Herman on Friday, start Sawyer Pruitt on Saturday, and then you could have had a TBD day on Sunday. And if Cody Brash had not thrown to that point, you could have just started him right then and there.
Agreed. Well, guys, we'll find out tomorrow night, starting at 6 o'clock against the Red Wolves. Again, Cajuns travel to Jonesboro to take on the Arkansas State Red Wolves, as we talked about in the last 45 minutes to an hour. First pitch tomorrow night, Friday, 6 o'clock. First pitch on Saturday, 6 o'clock. And first pitch on Sunday, 1 o'clock. Going to be a really, really tough series at Jonesboro. We'll see what the Cajuns are made of this weekend. All right, guys, real quickly, let's look at the Sunbelt standings right now. It looks like the Ragin' Cajuns, unfortunately, 11th, as we talk about there on the outside looking in. You know, KG, you brought up, you know, why are we talking about standings early? Well, this is do or die. Now, the last 4 weekends of baseball, we're in crunch time. This is do or die. And right now, again, Cajuns are on the outside looking in. This is, they're 7-11 in conference play, 23-17 overall. But guys, look at this. Look, we blew a game last week, right? You win one game, look at where you are. If you sweep, you're tied for 5th place, right? Tied for 4th, 5th place. And then if I know we play the coulda, woulda, shoulda game, but look how close. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams right there, separated by maybe 3 games in conference.
Well, that's why I keep hammering home the point, though, Jerry. Like with these last 4 series, there is zero room for getting swept. And I'm going to talk about the bad and try to get to the good. If you get swept, you are in a really bad position because the bottom 4 don't make it, and you're still sitting in the bottom 4 right now. So we're in a position where if you're going to lose a series, it's got to be one of the 3. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Mike. Like I said earlier in the show, you pretty much got to take 2 or 3 from here on out, and hopefully find a sweep somewhere in between, maybe against the Georgia school that we play. I always forget, is it Southern or State? I think it's
Georgia
Southern.
State. It's Georgia State.
It is State. Okay, see, I would have got it wrong. You gotta find a sweep somewhere in there to kind of really leapfrog you back into the fight. I would love to see it against the Georgia school or App State. Doing it against Coastal would be a huge task. Doing it this weekend would be a huge task. But bottom line for me, you cannot get swept in any of the remaining series because there's just no room for it anymore.
And look, you got every single team that we face moving forward. They're all ahead of us. You've got Arkansas State this weekend at 9-9. You've got Georgia State at 8-10. They're 1 game ahead of us. That's next weekend series at the Teague, followed by a trip to Boone to play App State. And then you close it out at the Teague against Coastal. So every team is ahead of us, which means if we do what we're supposed to do and beat some of those teams and take the series, well, guess what? All of this shuffles. And we got a chance to move up slowly and position ourselves somewhere in this vicinity right here. So it's very important, starting tomorrow night, you take that game 1 in Jonesboro and you build some momentum off of that and move forward. So yeah, this is crunch time, guys. It's like you said, Cole, every single game every single series is treated like a super regional moving forward because that's very, very important.
Well, let's go ahead and answer the question, G, because we always do at the end of all of our, weekend segments and breakdowns. They want to know our predictions. How many do we get this weekend? I'll go last. Why don't you go first, G? Throw it to Mike, and then I'll give you my answer at the back end.
Okay, right now, as from what I saw, if we can hit the baseball, I think we have a shot to take 2 out of 3. What worries me is that I don't know if we have the consistency of the pitching that can complement the hitting. It's either one or the other every weekend series. One weekend we hit the ball well, but we can't pitch. Next weekend we pitch well, but we can't hit. I don't think it's going to be enough this weekend. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the players prove me wrong. I hope I can come in on Sunday in the postgame and say I was wrong. But I think the Cajuns are going to take. I think the Cajuns are going to take one this weekend. They'll go 1-2, just like last weekend at Troy.
Yeah, the thing that's giving me hope is the last 4 games we had double-digit hits. That's given me a little bit of confidence. I instantly want to think 1, because 1, we struggle on Friday nights. We're not very good on Friday nights against elite pitching. We're really good on Saturday. Sunday, it's a hit or miss. So I instantly want to say 1. I'm gonna go with 2. I got to root for these guys. I got to support them. I'm gonna say 2. I think we figure it out. I think we figure out the pitching situation, the pitching management, the roles. I think we figured out. I really don't think we're going to see what we saw in Troy. At least I hope not. And we have a confidence booster as far as the guys at the plate. So I'm a bit optimistic, man. I got to root for these guys and support them. I'm going to go with 2 wins this weekend.
So all day long, I've been kind of playing tug of war with myself about this question because, like I said, at the end of every breakdown show, we give our honest answer on this one. And so all day I was kind of playing tug of war with myself about it. And then I got to really diving into the stats. And if you really look at the stats and how we match up against this team, it's not good. It's really not. I am never going to say that the Cajuns will get swept going into a series, excuse me. But if these stats tell a story, it's leaning that way. But, with all of that to be said, give me 2 games, baby, because this is the kind of weekend This is the kind of weekend that the Cajuns played a competition. And Jerry, you hit the nail on the head earlier. This is an Arkansas State team. While they keep the score low, that means that the Cajuns can stay in the ball game. And if you keep me in the ball game just long enough, I think we have enough fight in this club, especially with how we played offensively the last weekend of ball, to find a way to sneak out of there with the win. Mike, I agree with you. I think we learned a big lesson last weekend at Troy when it comes to this pitching staff. I think we handle it a night and day difference. I would not be surprised if Coach Sandy and Daggs get it figured out, like basically a full 180. But yeah, for some weird reason, give me 2 games, man. I have hope in this team. I think the offense is going to do just enough to be able to get it done. And I mean, you know, we're at the point now where it does you no good if you don't believe in this ball club. We're too deep in it. If we need those boys to believe in themselves, we need to believe in them first. So I hope they can show up to Jonesboro and, you know, put their foot down and get it done, because bottom line, this is a big springboard weekend to get you back in the standings and in the RPI fight, because they're 20 points higher than we are. Just have a great weekend and let's see what happens.
If you could take 2 out of 3 at Arkansas State, I think this could be the turning point where we can finish strong. Because if you really think about it, you take 2 out of 3 at Arkansas State, you come back against Southern, and I believe Nichols, right, in the midweek. And then you've got a Georgia State team that they're scrappy, but the fact that they have to come to the Teague, we can take advantage of that. And if you can and I don't want to look too far ahead, but if you could take 2 out of 3 and then take care of business in the midweek and then win that series next weekend, now you got some momentum going. So what I'm saying is if we want momentum, let's get it started this weekend. Let's get the train rolling starting this weekend. Take 2 out of 3, and then let's get some momentum going and complement what we did to start the year. I really believe that if we can pitch, play defense, and hit the ball like we did last weekend, I really think that this team can be dangerous. We just haven't seen it yet. You know, Coach Daggs has been saying it for like the last 3 weeks. We just haven't seen the best of them. We haven't seen the best of them. Well, guess what? The best out of this team better show up starting tomorrow. It's crunch time. So
and these pitchers carried us majority of the season. And these last 4 games of hitters have carried everything. So that's the only reason that's giving me hope, is because that our batters are getting good at the right time, it seems like, and I hope it carries through this weekend.
We'll find out.
Yeah, last thing I'll say is, you know, if you're able to go there and get it done this weekend, you're right back in the fight. I mean, this was one of the weekends that we knew, like we talked about earlier, that we knew was going to be a tall task to try to, you know, get back in this Sun Belt race. So if you're able to go out there and do it this weekend, Arkansas State's a very well-coached team, got some great arms, but it's just a challenge, you know, and this team has played to competition all season long, and I don't think this weekend's going to be any different. I think this team knows who Arkansas State is and what they can do, and I think we're going to play to their competition, and it's going to be tight, but I think the Cajuns do enough to get out of there with 2 or 3 boys. I really do.
Yeah, our boy Real Cole Matt, our boy Josh says, my brothers have battered wife syndrome. Actually, Josh, it's just called being a Cajuns fan, man. It's just called being a Cajuns fan. You know, the CDS, Cajuns disaster syndrome, the ups and the downs. It's just, you know, we're all guilty of it. You know, we're here, and we yeah, it's true. We all suffer together, but yeah, that's the trials and tribulations of being a Cajuns fan. You know, not many people from bigger schools and bigger fan bases can really grind like we can. We've survived many years of disappointment, but also great success as well. So hopefully, again, the success starts tomorrow in Jonesboro. Okay, moving on. Softball. KG, you got your stuff? All right, so there was like a come to Jesus meeting after the LSU game last week. Coach Allie Habits brought some fire to her post-game interview and basically was like, look, we've done everything we could as coaches. It's up to the players to go out and perform. And they did that against Coastal last weekend. They answered the call, swept a Coastal team that beat them 2 out of 3 last year, and got some momentum going. Unfortunately, couldn't get it done in Lake Charles the other night against the Cowgirls of McNeese. But look, I think that's what the doctor ordered. They needed that weekend at Lamson to take care of business, kind of change perception a little bit. But let me tell you, man, we got ourselves a test this weekend when Marshall comes to town. They are they're probably one of the better teams in the conference. I think they're number one in the conference right now. And they're coming in with the vengeance. And so we have to be on our P's and Q's. And, we have to take 2 out of 3. This is another situation. You've got a softball team right now that has not been playing well in conference. And we're hosting the conference tournament at Lamson Park this year, guys. So now it's just like baseball. Time to put up.
Yeah, only 2 weeks in the season left for the Lady Cajuns, so it's now or never for them. But yeah, I'll dive into it. They're 25-23 overall now with an 8-10 Sun Belt record. Got themselves right back into the fight with a sweep. They were able to answer the bell, and that's why we laugh. I wish Big Kev was on the show tonight because he laid down the gauntlet and said, "Look, I'm challenging these girls. We know we have the fire and the fight and the talent to do it. I am calling for a sweep. Go out there and get it done." And what did they do? They picked up the torch and ran with it. They got a sweep and got themselves right back into the Sun Belt Conference standings. They are now tied for 6th, so they're right in the middle of the pack of it. They have a great opportunity to move up or down depending on what they're able to do this weekend. They are currently 55th in the D1 RPI as well. I'll go game by game. Last Friday against Coastal, they won 12-4 in 5 innings. They scored a run in all 5 of those innings to end up run ruling Coastal. What a way to set the tone for the weekend than with a run rule. The top hitter in that one, in my opinion, was Brooke Otto. Went 2 for 3 with 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, and a walk. And the top pitcher in that one was Sage Hoover, who got the win that moved her to 8-9 on the season. She pitched 5 innings, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Fast forward to Coastal on Saturday. Cajuns win that one 8-6. They scored 3 runs in the 6th inning to complete the comeback. Top hitter in that one again was Brooke Otto, 2 for 3 with a triple, 3 RBIs, and a walk. And the top pitcher in that one again was Sage Hoover, who got the win, moving her to 9-9 on the season. She threw 3 innings, 0 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, and a walk. Sunday against Coastal, Cajuns in the series sweep with an 8-2 win. Cajuns scored all 8 of their runs with 2 outs in that game. So great job, Lady Cajuns, scoring, in clutch situations, getting runs across. That's a big deal at this time of the season. Top hitter in that one was Haley Hart, who was 2 for 3 with a triple and 3 RBIs. And the top pitcher in that one was Bethany Noble, who got the win, moving her to 8-4 on the season. She threw 4 innings, no earned runs, 1 strikeout, and 2 walks. And Tuesday at McNeese, unfortunately, they dropped that one 4-3 in Lake Charles. Mia Lascano doubled to put the tying run in scoring position in the 7th inning, but the Cowgirls escape with the victory in that one. Top hitter for the Cajuns again was Haley Hart, who in a perfect 4-for-4 with a home run and an RBI. She actually hit that home run in the 7th inning as well to give us a chance to get that comeback going. And the top pitcher for the Cajuns in that one was Julianne Tipton, who finished it out with 2 innings pitched, no earned runs, no walks, and no strikeouts. They will face Marshall in a 3-game set this weekend at home. So with the Cajuns being away, if you want to go watch the number 1 ranked Marshall Thundering Herd play your Lady Cajuns, please show up to the ballpark and support them. Marshall's coming in with a 35-12 record, 15-3 in the Sun Belt, which again is in first place, and they have a 25 RPI. Funny numbers because that's the numbers that we're used to seeing the Cajuns put up each and every year on the softball diamond. But we'll get back there. As I mentioned earlier, this is the last home series of the year for the Cajuns, and they do not play any midweek games next week. I believe, if I remember correctly, they will finish out the season playing South Alabama out at South Alabama. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that next Thursday when we do our next show. But a very big, tall task in front of us with Marshall. Same thing as baseball, boys. You got an opportunity and a chance not only to move up in the standings, but to move up in the RPI standings, which at this, you're in crunch time. You only got about a month left to go. For the girls, you only got 2 weeks. So you got to take advantage of all your chances, and it doesn't get any bigger than Marshall coming in. You have a great opportunity to win a series and really springboard yourself to get into the higher end of the rankings in Sunbelt going into the tournament, which again is at Lamson Park. And the Cajuns at home, anything can happen. So best of luck to the ladies this weekend. We wish you guys nothing but the best. Just keep hanging on to the momentum that you built yourself last weekend, and let's see where it takes us.
Yeah, just win the series. Win the series, build some momentum off of what you did last weekend, and I think they'll be in good shape. Look, again, Coach Allie challenged them, and she said, "Look, they gotta want it. They gotta want it." And they showed it last weekend. But no, this Marshall team's really, really good, and I really do believe if they can take the series against Marshall, that they can finish the season strong and hopefully make a run at the conference tournament. Mike, and want to add anything before we move on?
No, sir. It's all yours.
Awesome. So moving on real quick, guys. Before we get to the Gremies, we had a few basketball signings this week. Believe it or not, I know we lost some key starters. I believe Josh Lewis went into the portal. We lost Dorian Finister. I mean, both are huge losses to us, but we did gain a few guys, a bunch of transfers from some other D1 schools, starting with guard Dion Ware from ODU. Familiar name. He's coming on with the Cajuns. We signed Makai Cooper, another guard from Lindenwood College. We also signed Danny Pounds from Tennessee Tech, another guard. And last but not least, we signed another guard by the name of Trent Middleton Jr. from North Carolina A&T. So Coach Q looks like he's trying to rebuild this roster. And unfortunately for basketball, man, it's probably worse than football. I mean, you're going to be recycling rosters every year because of the portal and the number of players that are leaving. It's just the name of the game, guys. Just the name of the game. So a lot of guards. I'm kind of hoping that we can get at least one or two more big men. We kind of lacked that last year, but it looks like that he's got some shooters coming. It'll be interesting to see what he can do on the end of trying to get a big man. If he can get a big man, I think we can really have a complete basketball team.
All I can say about Q is you kind of have to trust the contacts that he has. I mean, him being an assistant at Houston for so long, he's got his reach out there in terms of talent and who's out there around the country. So, none of those guys really stick out to me in terms of, lighting up the scoreboard. Our friend Doug kind of provided us with some stats in the group message that we are. And I want to say most of those guys averaged around, 10 points a game and this, that, and the other. But what I take away from that, and this might just be me, I'm not a big basketball guy, is that you hope that they just mesh well together. When guys mesh well together on a court and they're able to have ball movement, things can happen. It can open up the floor and it can just get fun, So although they're not putting up stats individually, you hope that they're able to come here as a Cajun, learn from Coach Q and this style of play that he's trying to accomplish here. And maybe, as a unit, these guys will fit well together like a puzzle. And hopefully we can have more success than what we saw last year, on the court. Lastly, I'll say, hopefully these guys can stay healthy. I know injuries were a massive part of why our overall was so bad last year. It just seemed like every other game we were losing a key piece to this team. So if the injury bug can just leave us alone for long enough, we can really see what this team has. And I'll always support our basketball team. Like I mentioned, I never played basketball, but I love getting out to the Cajun Dome and watching the boys when I can. And I trust Coach Q, man. He's got a ton of leadership in him. He's got a ton of reach, as I mentioned, with his contacts around the country. He's obviously learned from one of the best, being at Houston and getting to coach in a national championship just last year. So, until I've been proven otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and trust Coach Q and whatever he's able to bring in, to the Cajun Dome.
Good, wise words of wisdom there, KG. And it's just trust the process, right? It's going to take time. And it's a brand new world with NIL and the portal and everything with basketball. Plus, we're dealing with, we just had the first year of a new head coach, a new staff, basically revamping the whole entire basketball program after 15 years of the same staff, right? So, it's going to take time. It's going to take patience, but hopefully sooner than later, we can start seeing the results. All right, boys. Last but not least, one of our favorite topics of our episodes, Gremies. And due to the NFL draft happening tonight, due to the fact that the Saints picked Arizona State wide receiver Jordan Tyson, this has to do with Saints, New Orleans Saints football. And I'm going to kind of switch it up a little bit. So here's the question. The question for tonight, the best and worst draft pick in Saints history. Now, here's the game. Here's how I'm going to do it. We're going to do best and worst first round draft pick, and then best non-first round draft pick. We're not going to do the worst non-first round draft pick because, I mean, there's so many of them, right? But we'll do best first round, best and worst first round draft pick, and then best non-first round draft pick. And you want me to start, or do you guys want to go? KG, you want to go?
I'll go first. I'll kick it off.
All
Okay,
right.
so I'll start with I always like to do worst first. So we're going to do worst first round draft pick by the Saints is the punter that they took in 1979, Russ Exelben. He lasted
Erxleben, yeah.
Erxleben, yeah, however you pronounce it. Keep in mind, folks, we took a punter in the first round that year, and that was the same draft that Joe Montana and Kellen Winslow was in. So the Saints could have took either one of those guys, the future Hall of Famers on the board, and instead we decided to take a punter in the very first round who goes on to play 5 years for the Saints and then gets arrested for fraud. So that is by far and away the worst first round draft pick in Saints history, but possibly you could argue one of the worst first round draft picks in NFL history. The best first round draft pick, in my opinion, that the Saints have ever had is Willie Roaf, who goes on to be like a 10-time Pro Bowler, a 10-time All-Pro, Saints Hall of Famer, Saints Hall of Famer, arguably one of the best offensive linemen in the history of the NFL. Willie Roaf is the best first round pick that the Saints have had. And then you asked the question, who was the best overall pick outside of the first round? Off the top of my head, because I wasn't expecting this question, I'm going to go Marcus Colston, who is a 7th round pick. I'm not going to say he was the best one outside the first round, but I'll definitely tell you he was the biggest diamond in the rough the Saints ever got. What a career he had, and it's more recent enough that I don't need to go ahead and hammer home Marcus Colston's career stats because, honestly, he was just the epitome of a New Orleans Saint, the way he was able to, put in the work week in and week out. And had just, when you threw the ball to Marcus, he didn't drop very many of them. So Marcus Colston is my diamond in the rough draft pick that the Saints had. But I'll go ahead. I guess I'll let you go last, Jerry, since you asked the question. Mike, let's see what you can come up with. Hey, buddy, you might need to unmute yourself first.
There we go. Best, I went with Cameron Jordan, 15-year guy with the Saints. Defensive end. He's a stud. He's always been good for us. The worst, I wanted to keep it more modern, right? I didn't go too far back. I just want to keep it modern. Cameron Jordan the best. Trevor Penning the worst. Thought he didn't really pan out. I think he just got traded. Reached out to a buddy of mine, and he was like 100%. He's a bust. He's a bust. So I'm gonna go with those guys, Cameron Jordan and Trevor Penning. The second question. Man, I was thinking Archie, but I didn't want to go that far back, but I had Marcus Colston written down also, so it's like a torn between those two. Archie's historic.
But to be fair, Archie was a first round pick.
Oh, you said non-first round.
Yeah, non-first round. But that's a good no, that's a good one. That is a good one. That's a good one.
Marcus Colston.
That's fair. That's fair. I think Colston was the biggest surprise of a draft pick, right? Like you said, Cole, he was a big diamond in the rough. Nobody ever thinks a 7th rounder would be the best receiver to ever sport the colors of an NFL team, which I believe Colston still holds most Saints records in receiving stats. So yeah, he was definitely a diamond in the rough. So I'm going to go probably my favorite or the best first round pick. I know it's cliche for me to do this, and there's so many guys, but I'm going to have to go 2006 Reggie Bush. And no, he didn't have a long career, but the reason I picked him was because the impact that he brought to the city when the city needed somebody like that to uplift the spirit. And I'll tell you that from somebody who experienced it. We had just moved back to New Orleans that January after Katrina, and they had hired Sean Payton in January, and then we had signed Drew Brees in March. And so we were already excited, like, oh my gosh, we got a new quarterback. We already knew what Drew Brees was capable of. And then for Reggie Bush to fall into our lap, I don't think people really understood how much that meant to the city for him to get drafted. Like, I'm still, to this day, it's been 20 years, but when I tell you I was in total shock when Houston decided to pick Mario Williams and drop Reggie Bush right into our lap, like, as a New Orleanian at the time, dude, we needed that so badly to uplift the spirit. Like, the attitude of the city, I felt like while they were rebuilding, changed the second we drafted Reggie. KG, I know you're waiting to say something. What you got?
I'm gonna test your New Orleans knowledge here, G.
Okay,
right
what
here
you got?
on the
What you
spot.
got?
I'm
Let's
putting
hear
your
it.
feet. I'm putting your feet to the fire right here.
All right, what you got?
Do you know, this is a broad question, I'll kind of tone it in a little bit. Do you know what Reggie Bush's first philanthropy work was in New Orleans? And it is football related.
When you say philanthropy, you mean like a nonprofit or like a
I'll just get to it because it is a kind of a broad question, and I kind of wanted to challenge you on that. City Park in New Orleans.
Yes, he did some stuff at City Park. I do remember that.
The field is actually named Reggie Bush Field because after Katrina, he gave $50,000 to refurbish City Park's football field. So not a lot of people know that. It's not common knowledge, but I found that out because Acadiana last season played at City Park against St. Aug, and I do my homework, and I found out, researching the field, that it's actually Reggie Bush Field at City Park or whatever it is. So yeah, that was his first philanthropy work in New Orleans after he got drafted, was giving the city of New Orleans $50,000 to kind of take care of the field and getting it back to being playable. So a little bit of fun fact for you right there.
And he did so much, man. Like both he and Drew Brees, when they first came to New Orleans, I remember they were present everywhere in the city. And they really wanted to show people like, hey, it's okay to come back. So I'll always be indebted. I mean, obviously, Drew Brees is, he can run for mayor tomorrow and win. But Reggie coming from LA with sort of the career he had at USC, for him to come in and just make New Orleans his home, as a New Orleanian, I'll always be very indebted to what Reggie did those 4 years and just the highlights, even though, again, to me, it wasn't about his highlights. Because I've been in the Dome when that dude was electric. Okay. Like there were some games where Reggie Bush was Reggie Bush, but for the most part, some people could say, well, his career was a little underwhelming. When he was on fire and the Saints were winning, like that Super Bowl season, the dude, you couldn't stop him. Returning punts for touchdowns. I remember every time he returned a punt for a touchdown in the Dome, the place, you thought the roof would fall. It was so loud. But I thought it was the impact that he had on the city that was so important, of why I thought it was one of the better draft picks of the first round. Worst first round draft pick, I'll put it as a tie. Giving up all our draft picks for Ricky Williams in 99 was that was the most Mike Ditka move you could have done, which I think eventually cost his job. And I'll give another honorable mention. We talk about trading up for first round draft picks. We traded up in 2003 to the 6th all-around pick to draft Jonathan Sullivan out of Georgia. And he could never really stay in shape for the time he was in New Orleans. The guy was a total flop. I remember everybody was hyping him up because we traded up for him to the 6th overall pick, and he didn't do anything. That was back in 2003. Best non-first round draft pick, I'm going to go second round. I believe it was 1983 or 82. No, 1981. Ricky Jackson.
Great pick.
Hall of Fame linebacker, part of the Dome Patrol. I grew up, I was too young to really remember the prime of the prime time of the Dome Patrol, but you can ask anybody, any Saints fan, name them, and it's, Vaughn Johnson, Pat Swelling, Ricky Jackson, and the late Sam Mills. And Ricky Jackson was such a beast, man. He was such a beast of a linebacker. And, you still go to Saints games, there's people that wear the number 57 jersey to honor the guy. So, yeah, my 3 picks, my favorite first round draft pick was Reggie Bush. Second, worst was Jonathan Sullivan. And, of course, Ricky Jackson was my best non-first round draft choice. Josh says Jimmy Graham is in the third round is the best value pick of all time. Yeah, I would say so. For when it comes to stat line, I would say so. I kind of wish he would have had a little bit of a comeback. It's a shame that Jimmy couldn't win a Super Bowl here. I thought that he came close a few times. I thought he would have won.
You could say the same thing about Cam.
True.
Same thing about Cam.
Very
Got close so many times with Drew at the end of the line, and just there's so many what ifs at the end of Drew's career. But it is what it is. Hopefully the Saints will get back there one day, and it looks like the pieces are starting to fall in place. And I just hope we talk a lot about Tyler Shuck and what he was able to do at the end of last season. But the sophomore slump is a thing. I just hope that the pieces that we have surrounded him with are going to be able to ease the burden of his workload than what we saw last year. Last year, he had to carry the rock, throw the rock, basically be the whole offense at times. With the pieces that we have surrounded with him now, especially with Travis in the backfield, I think if we could become a run-first football team and run effectively, it's going to open up a whole world of fun for Tyler Shuck in this offense. So I'm looking for the Saints to not only do well next season, but possibly compete for a division title and push that 10-win mark.
Look at what he did to Jawan Johnson, man. Like, I'm thinking, in the beginning of the season, man, Jawan Johnson, he's been here too long. He can't do anything. He can't catch, can't do this, can't do that. Man, Tyler Shuck goes in and throws him the rock. The guy looks like an all-pro tight end. Looks like a good receiving tight end that we've been lacking for a while since Drew Brees retired. That's another thing about the Saints draft picks. You ever notice in the past, like you said about Russell Erxleben, right? Fun fact for you, Cole. Back in the day, they used to call him Thunderfoot when they drafted him, and then he turned into Blunderfoot after he kept missing kicks. So,
well, at the time, he broke the NCAA record for longest field goal or something like that. So, they thought they were getting that kind of, because he was a punter / kicker. He did both. But still, drafted, I think he is still, I don't know if he's still the highest drafted kicker of all time, but he's definitely top 2.
Janikowski is up there too, but I don't think he was as high as Erxleben.
Right. So anyway, what I'm saying is if you're going to take a kicker in the first round, you better hit on a guy that's going to be a future Hall of Famer. And as I mentioned, he only played 5 seasons and then got arrested for fraud. So, and then again, like I mentioned, after you pick him, you still had Kellen Winslow and Joe Montana on the board. So hard to say that you didn't miss on that draft.
I mean, just to give you an idea of kickers being drafted in certain rounds, I mean, Morton Anderson will go down as one of the best kickers of all time. He was a 4th round pick in 1982. Most of your kickers aren't really picked in the top 3 or top 4 rounds. So unless you're Adam Vinatieri, you better bring it if you want to be drafted in the top 3 rounds. I'll give one more, guys. I'm having fun with this. It's draft night, right? And we're all Hoodats in here. Mike, are you a Hoodat too? Yeah, we're all Saints fans. Another one that I remember that disappointed me was in 1996, we drafted Alex Molden, who was, I believe, a cornerback out of Oregon. And we passed up on Eddie George. That was the first time of Saints mismanagement or front office mismanagement that I experienced. I think it was like 7 or 8 at the time. And I remember us drafting Alex Molden. In that year, I believe Eddie George was either Rookie of the Year or runner-up for Rookie of the Year. And we were 3-13, and Jim Mora resigned in the middle of the year because he couldn't take it anymore. And I'm thinking, if you would have drafted Eddie George, Jim, maybe we would have gone to the playoffs, because we would have had, a good Hall of Fame running back or a good running back in Eddie George. But no, you went after a cornerback that lasted maybe 4 or 5 years with the Saints before getting traded away. I mean, how many times have we done that in our history, guys? We've just bypassed these Hall of Fame guys to draft a bunch of guys who become busts. It's almost like in our DNA.
It was the joke for a while that, the Saints would draft these guys and they wouldn't really do much here. But as soon as they would leave, they would have all pro seasons. That happened
all the time.
That happened so many freaking. But I'll even give you one more, and it's not the Saints doing. The guy just got picked ahead of them. But the Patrick Mahomes story. The Saints are on the clock, ready to just about to select Pat. And then the Chiefs take him, pick before. Now, granted, we got Lattimore, who goes on to be one of the best Saints corners of all time and had a phenomenal career in the black and gold. So you didn't really miss there, but it's one of those other what ifs. What if he could have slid one more spot? Who knows what Patrick Mahomes could have done sitting a couple years behind Drew Brees? Now, on the flip side, it would have sucked to have seen a guy as talented as Patrick push Drew out of the building, because unfortunately we saw how rapidly Drew started declining at the end of his career. And I would have hate to have watched that, because listen, Drew Brees is my favorite athlete of all time. I'm talking baseball, football, you name a sport. I am a full-fledged Drew Brees guy. And it would have really sucked to watch him get pushed out of the building by a guy that's more talented. But that's the life cycle of being a football fan and having a good franchise, is that's kind of what you want. But it just would have sucked from a personal standpoint. But on the flip side, it also sucked watching Drew regress with no backup behind him. So it goes both ways. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that draft story out there. I didn't want people to forget we were 1 pick away from Pat Mahomes.
Well, what sucks about it is you saw some greatness in Tyler Shuck last year, and Drew retired in 2020. It's been 5 years we've been trying to search for a quarterback. You know, we tried Jameis Winston. He gets hurt. Not, you know, and look, I love Jameis. As a person, he's awesome, right? But then you go, you know, you bring Andy Dalton in to fill the gap, and then you sign Derek Carr to 2 years. That became a total disaster. And then you put your trust in Spencer Rattler, who I think has all the potential in the world, but I don't know if he has the longevity of being a starting quarterback. I think he's a great backup. He's an awesome backup. But then you see what Tyler Shuck did the last 5 or 6 games. And I mean, it's been 5 years since we've seen Drew. And I've always said, guys, let's be honest. When somebody like Drew Brees walks out the door and leaves, it's hard to replace that, right? Like, it's not like the Green Bay Packers is a prime example of a team that has gotten really lucky with their quarterback line, right? They went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. That's an anomaly. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. You've seen it with the Patriots, right? Up until this season. Like, they had trouble finding a quarterback after Tom Brady left, and then they got lucky with Drake May, and look at what they did this year, right? So, like, it's not an easy thing to be able to get a quarterback to just follow in the footsteps of I mean, let's be honest, Drew's a first ballot Hall of Famer now, right? So I'm glad we finally got Tyler Shuck, but at the same time, man, it's a good what if scenario if Mahomes if Sean Payton would have been able to get Mahomes instead of Kansas City jumping us, you know. But it is what it is. Hey, Tyler Shuck's the guy now. Tyler Shuck's the guy. Boys, it's been fun tonight. We've talked UL baseball. We've talked UL softball. We've talked Sunbelt. We've talked Saints. We've talked draft. It's not a bad night for me to come back. It wasn't a bad night.
Hell no. Welcome back, G.
Hey, it was good to be back, fellas. But look.
Hey, listen, before we go, I got one more for you because you've been hosting all night long, and we always end on this note. And I want you to go first because you've been the host. But now I'm throwing it to you.
What you got?
give me your final thoughts of the weekend. Give me your final thoughts of the show. Tell me something right here.
All right, so I think this is a weekend where we need to kick it into gear. You know, you said it earlier. It's 4 weeks left of important baseball that there's no more time for experimenting. This is where you as a coach, you make a decision on what you want to do and you stick with it, and you ride or die by it. No more experimenting. No more. Well, we did this game, but we still lost the series. None of that. This is where. Now I feel like this is regional mode. You want to make a regional, you got to act like you want to be in a regional. And that starts tomorrow night at Arkansas State. You're playing against a team that is good enough to make a regional. You're playing against a team that took 2 out of 3 from you last year and run ruled you at the Teague. Go prove a point. Show them that last year was a flop. Now, I know we talk about, well, it was last year. You've got a lot of guys coming back that played on that team last year. Show them last year was a flop and an anomaly. Make your mark now. Make your mark now to set momentum for the next few weeks. So when the conference tournament comes, not only are we in it, but we're one of the hotter teams in there. That has to start tomorrow. Ladies, girls at Lamson Park, Marshall, last weekend, make it count. Make it count. Coach Allie said, you know, what do you want your legacy to be? She said the teams, you know, this team, we know our history. It's tough, you know, being a team that's struggling. Change that perception. You started last weekend. Continue to change that perception this week against a good Marshall team. And I don't know about you guys, but between UL Baseball and Festival International this weekend, I told Mike before we came on, I'm going to have my phone on me, looking at the game while walking around downtown at Festival. Look, anybody going to Festival, please, please, please be safe. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims of that terrible tragedy at the Mall of Louisiana in Baton Rouge. I hate to say it, man, we live in an unsafe world. So anybody going out to Festival, anybody going out and about around town, please be safe, please be careful, but also have a good time. Cajuns, softball and baseball, let's take the series this weekend. Let's get some momentum going. And yeah, that's all I got to say. What you got, guys?
Go ahead, Mike. Let's hear your final thoughts.
Oh, man, I got it all circled. The freshmen, I have a feeling the 4 out of the 4 freshmen are going to be starting this weekend. Lim, just in conference, he got his batting average up to 333. So I guess what I'm getting at is that the underclassmen, they're not used to this. we need them to step up also. And the older class, we need them to step up. I need everything to just combine. The pitching, the hitting, the underclass, the older class. Let it all mesh. Let it come together this weekend. Let's figure it out everywhere, all parts of the game. Let's have a good, complete, well-rounded game, 3 games this weekend. We take 2 this weekend, everything starts shifting. So that I just hope they're ready to play. Let's figure it out, and let's start winning some ball games.
And I'll wrap it up, boys, with this. And this goes for the girls and the boys. You're in the dog days now. You got, less than a month of games left to go. All the outside perception doesn't matter anymore. All that matters is who's in that dugout and what y'all are able to do together as a cohesive unit. Play for each other. Have fun. But first and foremost, have fun. These are the types of games and days where, things start getting tight and pressure starts getting put on you. That's when, things fall apart. It's still a game at the end of the day. You played this game your entire life. Have fun. You got both baseball and softball have very tall tasks ahead of them. Welcome the challenge. Show up to the ballpark with a smile on your face. This is why you play these games. Who gets up for going play, Patasa University, who's last place in the league? No, you want to play these first place teams. You want to play the best of the best. So put a smile on your face, get to the ballpark, and rise to the challenge. That's all I got to say, boys. Jerry, you hit the nail on the head, though. Everybody that is going to be out on the road, whether you're celebrating festival, which brings out the best in Lafayette, please enjoy yourselves. But first and foremost, be safe. And then, bottom line, our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and anybody involved with the Baton Rouge shooting today. That is an absolute tragedy. And we do live in a very unsafe world, and it's very important that we start to be very mindful of each other and the times that we spend with each other. So I'm very thankful for you boys. Mike, I'll see you tomorrow night at Luke Burbank's house for the crawfish boil. Luke gave us a little text message early today. He said, hey, crawfish in the pot. Y'all bring y'all beer, and we're going to have us a good time. So we'll be watching the Cajuns at Burbank Bar and Grill tomorrow night. But, G, before we go, thank you for hosting tonight. And take it away and lead us out of this one.
Yeah, guys, look. Cajun Nation, if you like what we do, please like, subscribe, follow us. We're all over X. We're all over social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and many other places as well. You'll see our presence around town. You'll see us at the games. If you see us at the games, like if you see Mike Beerb at the bottom of the grandstand at the Teague, if you see KG at Section A or at the tailgate, come say hi. Come say hello. If you see me, come say hi, right? Like, come socialize with us. Come talk some Cajun sports with us. And we always enjoy a good greeting from our fellow Cajun fans. And of course, Natty Daddy with his natural light. I know he's going to be drinking some of that with that crawfish at Luke Burbank's house tomorrow night, right, KG? Anyway, guys, it's been a blast. Again, Cajuns baseball goes to Arkansas State this weekend, 3-game series against the Red Wolves. Cajun softball, huge home series at Lamson Park against the Marshall Thundering Herd. For KG, for Mike, I'm Jerry. As always, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll be back on Sunday to wrap up the post-game weekend series against the Red Wolves of Arkansas State. But for now, have a good night. And as always, go Cajuns.